sales solves everything, man. If you have sales, you now have revenue. If you have revenue, you can invest in building a better product. You can hire more talent to go and grow your business and fix the things that are still broken in your business. And by the way, I was 10 years into StuKent and still finding thing after thing that we had to go work on. Like that, just get used to it. You're going to always be figuring it out like entrepreneurs do. And there's always another struggle and problem along the way.
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stu Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
It is another great day on the Startups with Stu podcast. Today we have a guest that is in the trenches. He is working hard on his startup called Kalibrate. Mr. Marc LeFevre. Marc, thank you for your bravery and choosing to be an entrepreneur, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Stu, I love this. Thank you so much for having me. And in the trenches, I think that's a very good way to describe where I'm at right now with my business.
So tell us where you're at. Tell us about what you got going with Kalibrate.
Yeah. So Kalibrate is a SaaS product in the ed tech industry. So, StuKent is far down that road. But Kalibrate is actually a career services tool that is geared right now to the B2B side. We're also looking into the B2C side, but it's a SaaS product that helps the user build a resume. We're leveraging AI as part of the process. Helps the user build a resume, house it in a dashboard, adjust it whenever you need to. But then the most important part is the calibration piece where we are calibrating the resume to fit a specific job description. And so the market is an educational entity. So anybody that's got students, a lot of times they really struggle with the ability to get all of their students a quality resume. And then when it's time to go apply for internships and jobs, it's all about how do I adjust this resume to fit the specific job. And that's a massive pain for anybody that's ever done a resume or applied for a job. So yeah, we're 100% bootstrapped. We've been working on this product for about a year and a half. I had the idea a bunch of years ago, but had to find the right partners, the right developers, finally found the right team, and we're off to the races.
Fantastic. So cool. So I can see that the market really has a need for this, and it's only growing. Traditional universities are very much under the gun right now. And a big part of how they're measured is by job placement. How many people are getting jobs? And so what Kalibrate does then in helping them help their students have good resumes is going to help them with job placement. I can see that school administrations would definitely have an interest in taking a look at this. And I also think it's really brilliant, Marc, because when you think about your first job out of college, you're not married to just one career path yet. You have a major. You want to be able to use the skills you learned in your major. But, within marketing, there's so many different job descriptions that you could qualify for at an entry level. And the ability to say, okay, right now I'm applying for sales roles. Right now I'm applying for marketing roles. Right now I'm applying for digital marketing roles, email marketing roles. They all are different. And to be able to adjust your resume, if I'm understanding correctly, that's what you guys are doing?
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you think about, if anyone listening to this, if you go back to anytime you've been in the job search, I mean, you're going to jump on LinkedIn and find 50, 60 jobs that you're interested in, but all of them are a little bit different. Some of them are in different industries. And so the pain of going in and trying to adjust the resume is sometimes too much. So people just shotgun the same resume out to a million different jobs. And of course, they get the auto-generated email that says, thank you for applying for this job, but we don't want you. But yeah, so we're trying to solve that for university students. There's a dashboard in Kalibrate where you can track all of your applications, and it sorts them by industry. And so as you're doing that, it takes about 3 to 4 minutes to calibrate your resume to fit a specific job description. So you can just pound through those and really transform your job search experience coming out of your undergrad.
So, Mark, how have you been paying the bills while you get this thing going? What's been, you're a bootstrapper. I want to talk quite a bit about how you're bootstrapping, but specifically, like, what have you been doing to pay the bills in the meantime?
We actually just signed our very first contract, so we are revenue positive at this point. So yeah. Huge for us, really exciting. But yeah, there's 3 of us on my team. There's myself, then I have 2 technical co-founders. We all are working full time. So I'm a professional career consultant and independently. So I do a lot of that stuff. Works well for what we're doing with my product. But that's paying the bills. And so it's all been sweat equity with Kalibrate so far. The good news is my team, we believe in what we're doing. It's really exciting. And the feedback that we're getting as we just jumped into the business development at a serious level just a couple of months ago. We were in beta all last year, just testing it like crazy. And so now we're finally approaching schools and asking for money. And so right now, how are we paying the bills? Full-time jobs on the side. So
I love the full-time jobs on the side. Okay, I like that. I think that's a really important way for a lot of folks to get started. And when you say full-time job as a consultant, is that a paid gig by a company, or is that a full-time job as an entrepreneur as well with a service-based business?
Oh yeah, the latter. So I have my own business. It's a service-based.
Yes.
Business. So clients find me. I work mostly with executives. They're looking to change positions. I also have a couple of retainers by organization. So I work with a refugee organization out of Utah, and a couple other organizations like that where they have me on retainer as a career coach for their people. So it's a really great job. I like it. I would prefer to go 100% in on Kalibrate, absolutely. But that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, cool. It's cool that there is definitely a tie between the work you're doing with your day-to-day consulting gig and your startup. So I like that. I think that's wise. And you'll find a trend among a lot of those that are getting their businesses started that they have another business or another job that's paying the bills while they get going.
Yeah.
And before they take the full leap and go all in. So you've kind of described already for me how Kalibrate is different from other resume builders. How is Kalibrate positioned to scale now?
Yeah, good question. So I think one of the things that's really beautiful about what we've built is if you think about, and you may or may not be familiar with our competitors. So we have a good handful of competitors in this space. Almost all of them, when they go to a university, they're going to install software on their servers, and they're going to have a single sign-on, and it's kind of a pain. Our biggest competitor, the one that has the largest piece of the market, if you talk to anyone that uses them, it is a 6-month onboarding experience, and it's just annoying. So we are a URL. So we are a web-based tool. And so that enables us to scale. Our overhead from an operational standpoint is very low. And so that's one of the reasons we built it the way we did, is so a student's going to sign on with their .edu email address. And so the onboarding is very minimal, and we can handle a lot of users all at one time. So there is the B2B side, which we can scale almost at an unlimited trajectory. We could go as far as we possibly can. The B2C side, users can go on individually and pay for our service at a lower rate. And so the B2C side, we're getting ready to jump into social media and really blast that as well. So as far as being ready to scale, I would say probably the limiting factor right now is going to be if we scale large enough right now without any money, our team is very limited. So we're gonna need manpower as we scale. I'm sure you experienced that with Stukit 100%. That's going to be a limiting factor for us for sure if we grow too quickly.
I like the idea of going for schools, Mark, because you can get a bit of a recurring model there.
Yeah.
You're kind of always like construction, working yourself out of a job, right? Like as soon as you sign someone to build their house and then you build it, they don't need you anymore and they quit paying you. And you got to go find the next person that's willing to let you build a home for them. In your case, you're helping them find a job. When they've got one, chances of them caring to stick around are slim. And I'm sure you're working on some ideas of like how you could keep them as customers for a longer period of time. But man, it seems like that's always going to be a bit of a challenge for your business. Maybe not so much a problem. But yeah, I like that. With the idea of the education piece is you always have a new batch of students that are getting ready to enter the job market. They always need help with that. And anytime you can truly help someone, you've got a business where people will pay you for the help. So yeah. I like that.
And Stu, I've got a question for you actually in that area. So with the B2B side, obviously, yeah, if we could sign a 3 to 5 year contract and students just go to school there and they don't worry about it, they have access. I'm curious what your thoughts would be on the B2C side. And I'm sure many of your listeners, this will apply to anybody that's got any kind of a software as a service. Trying to the idea of having a one-time payment versus an online subscription. And you nailed it. Like the dating app called Hinge, their tagline is it's the app to be deleted, right? Because they don't want you to come back. And that's kind of the way we are. If you land a job, hopefully Kalibrate gets you where you want to go. But I'm curious what your thoughts would be on managing something like that, just off the top of your head. Going versus a single payment versus an a monthly subscription.
Monthly subscriptions that are no-brainer low can be a wise approach for B2C, right? For direct to consumer, I think there's power in a low monthly fee. It's also one that can easily be forgotten, and someone might be mad if 4 years later they're like, "What? Kalibrate's been charging me for 4 years, and I only needed it for the first 3 months." Like you could have some disappointed customers, some fraud reports where your payment processor dings you for looking like you're fraudulent, although you're not. The person felt like it was fraudulent because they're trying to report you because they just don't want to be charged for the last 3 years of something they didn't use, right?
Yeah.
So there's challenges there. I think at the end of the day, if I were you, I would very much be aimed at organizations that want to pay for people to have access versus one at a time getting someone to choose to use the platform, because the one at a time people they're not going to pay as much and they're going to come and go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things to go figure out as it relates to and test and try. That's what entrepreneurs do. We go figure it out. And I don't have all the answer for you as to what's going to be right for your business model. But my initial inclination is to say, if you get someone for $3 a month or $10 a month or $20 a month, and you get them for 4 months and they all leave after that on average, even faster if it's working really well, then you're always going to be in a place of outpacing churn, and that gets exhausting. So finding organizations that are willing to pay and organizations that continually have a new need will allow you to never, you may have churn in the users, but you don't have churn in the logo, right? The university keeps paying, the students keep churning, and that's okay. That's that means it's working. So, that said, doing it the way of like, hey, super cheap or even free for users, getting thousands upon thousands or even millions of users makes you a better fit for something like monster.com to acquire. Is Monster even a thing? Indeed's like the big boy, right? So Indeed or LinkedIn to say, oh yeah, we like this for specific use cases, and we want to make it available to all of our users. And then they pay you, and you may not have ever even earned $1 in revenue, or very much, I guess, because you already have some. But yeah, I don't have the answer for you in that regard, but those are some things to consider and try.
That's amazing, Stu. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's great. Love it.
Give me some stories from the bootstrapping life you're living. Like what's worked well for you in bootstrapping? I know that it's a real challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs that are not tech founder CEOs. They're not tech founder CEOs, that they have an idea that requires tech. They have to go find the tech talent, either give them equity or pay them, or outsource it, pay one time for a project. Like, what has worked well for you in that regard?
Yeah. So I waited for about 2.5 years. I waited on this idea. The anxiety was starting to raise because I started to see people doing my idea. And I thought, man, I got to jump in the game right now. But thankfully, from a friend of a friend, I found somebody that came highly recommended. And he came as a package deal. So he was a front end UX UI guy. He came with a back end dev guy. And I went to lunch with him. Pitched him my idea, and the thing that really sold me on them was how excited they got about my idea. And as I asked them a bunch of questions about, hey, from your skill set, do you have the ability to build this? And they were really straight up with me. They said, you know what, we haven't built something quite like this, but we know where to learn and where to go, and we're good. We'll figure it out. So we jumped into it, and, working at nights and on weekends, trying to get this thing going, and starting with my original PowerPoint, because I designed it on a PowerPoint, and I just gave it to them and said, guys, this is it. Let's work from this. Trying to come up with that first MVP was quite the experience. And a lot of times one of the other things I think is important is we started this before AI really jumped onto the scene. This is right before the AI boom. And so as we were building this, AI all of a sudden became available. OpenAI was like, hey, you can have an API with us, and away we go. And so that completely changed our mindset. We thought, man, we could really leverage this. But we're finding that a lot of universities are afraid of, or just at least cautious around AI. So that was another thing we're working to overcome. But yeah, but the bootstrapping side of things is about as gritty as you might imagine. I mean, it's like, okay, I've got 2 hours on Tuesday night from 10 p.m. to 12. Let's work on this. And it took a little bit longer than, in my brain than I thought we would take. But you know what? It's working. And as far as paying and the way we structured our business, I felt like it was really important to give these two equal equity with myself. Now, I know not every founder would feel that way. I read the book Slicing Pie. I don't know if you've ever read that, about the dynamic equity split. But I wanted them to feel ownership, skin in the game, and to do that. So we have split equity between the three of us equally, and we reserved some in a slush fund. But that's actually worked really well so far. Everybody feels very invested, and it's worked great for us. Not every personality would work for that, but that's how it's worked for us.
Okay. And how long have you guys been working together now?
We partnered 2 years ago. It took us about a year to get our MVP up. And then we've been a little over 2 years. Yep. And then we were in beta for the better part of last year. And now our version 1 is out and ready to roll. So about 2 years.
Good for you. I think it's awesome that you're taking this approach. It's what I would call the Tom Brady approach, where he was like willing to not be paid the most, even though he was the GOAT. So he always had the right people around him to go and succeed and share in the glory of that. I think that's a wise approach, Mark. I would say, and I would suggest to any entrepreneurs listening today, don't do what Mark did unless you're bootstrapping. Because if you've taken money from investors, don't go find the tech co-founder that says, I'll go figure it out. Okay. In that case, you have investors that have purchased equity. They put dollar bills on the line, their dollar bills on the line for you to succeed. And you need to use their dollar bills to hire talent that's proven. Now, most solid startups are building something that no one's ever built before in its final state. They maybe have built parts that haven't built everything. If not, you're not really innovating that much. So there's going to be parts of it that a tech co-founder is going to say, I've never done this before. But what they should be able to say is, I've done this and this and this. Therefore, you should be able to have strong trust that I can do that I can build your dream with you. And so it doesn't mean you shouldn't give away some equity. I don't recommend bringing someone to the table that's more in a learning phase and giving them equity unless you're in the bootstrap phase that Marc's in which case it could be a great model. And it seems like Marc has the perfect humble personality to go and make the shared ownership work, and that they do as well.
Yeah, so Stu, let me clarify, because my partners are going to listen to this, and I'm not just saying this to make them feel better. They are two of the smartest humans I've ever met. And I know everybody listening to this, you've heard, as an entrepreneur, you need to partner with people that are smarter than you. That is 100% the case with my guys. They had proven to me that they could learn and they could figure things out because of what they had done. But as far as working in AI and building what we've done, they hadn't done that. So, but I wholeheartedly endorse everything you said. Like, don't go my route unless you're bootstrapping.
And it's not to say that they aren't deserving or that it's not right for their scenario. Another thing that's really, really important, should you take the approach that Marc's taking, often while people are bootstrapping, they try to save money and not spend money on attorneys that draw up the actual splitting of those shares. It is very important that you go and get that work done so that it's really written in stone exactly how they earn their shares. Because you can say, hey, we're splitting 33, 33, 33. All of us get that. It's going to be an equally shared ownership. But if they quit after 4 months and you have to keep growing and they took 67% of your business and they hope someday you work really hard and you sell and you get 33% and they get 67% and they were only there for 4 months, you're going to hate yourself for making that mistake of not footing the bill, of paying an attorney to help you get the partnership agreement in place. So please, 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 I cannot stress enough how important it is that you take the time to do and money to do that. Get with an attorney that helps with startups and they'll help you make it happen. As you keep going and growing with this thing, I'm excited to cheer you on. People go to Kalibrate AI to check it out.
Yeah. Yep. Kalibrate with a K.
And then is the goal bootstrap forever? Is this bootstrap life? Or are you getting to a place where you're like, I think we might want to raise some money?
Right now, I think bootstrap life is the life we've chosen because, as you mentioned earlier, the B2B route, getting these contracts, they're significant. And if we're able to land, in the next handful of months, 5-6 contracts, we're sitting really, really pretty from a revenue standpoint. So right now, the three of us have decided we're not going to pursue funding. That might change in a year from now if we experience some massive growth and we need to go do that. But right now, we feel like bootstrapping is the way to go. We feel like we can do it. There were times early on in our development when I was thinking, it would be so much easier if somebody would just give us a chunk of change and we could all go in full time and do this. But to get where we are now and seeing the revenue and the potential revenue, we feel like that's what we're going to do.
Okay. And who does all of the sales for your business?
You're looking at him right here. And so that was one of my, and you might imagine as a co-founder who's not technical with a technical business, I mean, I'm the idea guy. I have all of the consulting and all of the philosophy in our product, which is a real differentiator for us, by the way. A lot of our competitors are built primarily by software development people, not career professionals. So our product is really, I just told my partners, I said, you got to take my brain as a consultant and automate it. And that's what they've done. But I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility to now bring dollars in. So I am the sales guy. I've got a fourth person who's coming in and helping us, which is really great. But yeah, we're right now pounding the pavement on the B2B side. And I would love to pick your brain, unless you have another direction you want to go. Love to pick your brain on building a B2B pipeline, specifically finding decision makers that will take a call. That is, especially in education technology, everybody's got something they want to sell to a university. And so getting a career services professional or a VP of student life, something like that, to take a call is a challenge. I'd love to pick your brain in that area.
Well, I'm happy to answer some questions in regards to that. So, man, how to unpack that, where to start, Mark? I think you mentioned finding the key decision makers. So they gather, birds of a feather flock together. And so the administrators of universities gather, the career services specialists of business schools gather, the business deans gather. They have their organizations that they are a part of. They pay to play in that game and to be a part of the organizations. And when they do that, there's usually other vendors already taking advantage of that audience. And so you just go and find the conferences they're attending and you go be a part of it. And if you're a funded startup, what you get to enjoy is spending 20 grand or 30 or 50 grand to be the platinum sponsor. And you are in everyone's face early and everyone knows about you right away. There's a lot of power in that. If you're the bootstrapped guy, you have to be really, really creative in finding ways to still get in front of everyone at the conference. I did the bootstrapped startup. I did all the sales for that startup. It was called getfoundfirst.com. I sold that business in 2015. It's now 2024, 9 years later, of Michael Johnson owning that business and Katie Harris with him. Those two partners have done a stellar job continuing to grow that business. While they grew it with a sales team, I grew it with myself doing the sales. That was a mistake for me. Looking back, I wish I had not done that. Another thing I didn't do was eat my own dog food. We helped so many other people do their Google ads and we didn't spend a penny on Google ads. How dumb is that? I learned a lot from that experience running Get Found First. But one of the things that I realized was that not having capital up front made it really hard to implement a lot of the cool creative ideas that I would come up with. And so when I started StuKent, I told myself, I'm going to raise money because one, I have a long sales cycle and I have to pay people to help me. But two, I'm not going to be the salesperson. And three, I want to have some money to be able to go and implement some of my creative ideas. And you have to get extra creative when you don't have a budget. So it's possible you can do it. A cool idea I have for you, by the way, you buy booth space, the cheapest booth space you can get at the conference. You take $1,000 in cash. You put it in a clear box and you put a lock on the box. And you invite everyone at the conference to come to your booth to unlock the box. How do they unlock the box? They give you their email address or their business card, and then they get a code to try. One of the codes available at that conference is the code to unlock that box. If they get it, they get $1,000. Now, all of a sudden, you got you've given people a big reason to choose to come and talk to you and to get the emails of your target audience because you're sponsoring a conference where your audience is. So getting in front of the decision makers is not easy. There are email databases, Apollo.ai, ZoomInfo. There are a variety of platforms where you can go and get data to help you more quickly do the cold outreach that you've got to go do. Cold outreach needs to be a part of what you're doing. Word of mouth is going to take too long. It's by the way, a very common mentality of bootstrappers is that word of mouth is going to carry you. That all you have to do is do a good job for one, and then they're going to tell all their friends and family, and all the business is just going to come to you. What I learned is that that's definitely not the case. The real growth comes from you doing the talking, you selling yourself unapologetically, wearing the Kalibrate AI everywhere you go, not being afraid to constantly be pitching and selling. So, other ideas for getting in front of key decision makers. You can network into them through LinkedIn and use LinkedIn as a powerful platform by not just messaging them, but commenting on the stuff that they're posting. If your audience is like not an audience that participates a lot, posts very often on LinkedIn, then you've got to go find where they hang out. And if they hang out at the Kentucky Derby, then you got to go pay for the ticket and be a part of the Kentucky Derby. Wherever they are, you go find them. That's, I think, the best way to get in front of them. Another thing that you can do is create solid content. And one of the cool ways to do that is you have a webinar where one of the school administrators talks, or one of the career services specialists that helps people get internships, talks about what they do to get their students internships. And they can share their story of how they expanded the internship program at their school. Like that webinar, all of a sudden, you don't have the platform yourself. You don't have the expertise yourself to say, here's my webinar on how to help a university expand their internship program. But if the Harvard Career Services person talks about it, or that's probably a bad school example because they don't have trouble getting internships. Right? You pick a school like Saginaw Valley State College grew their internship program with going from 20% of business students to 80% of business students in 3 years. Like that person telling their story, all of a sudden the other career services colleges want to tune in, and you get to have your branding on it. There's power in that. It takes some money and time to make that happen too. None of this happens overnight, but those are some examples, man. I hope you find those helpful. And I hope that other entrepreneurs listening go, oh, I could apply that to my industry or my startup.
Stu, this is gold. I feel like I should be paying you big money for this advice, but this is gold. Thank you. Yeah, these are phenomenal ideas. And I think one of the things, you nailed this a couple of times. As a bootstrapper, I'm like reluctant to fork out the cash, but I think what I'm catching from you is, listen, you're just gonna have to pony up at some point and go take that plunge and get where they are. That's really great. And I 100% have had the mentality, yep, with the 2 or 3 contracts that we have right now, we're going to hyper please them, and they are going to do all of our advertising for us. And it's going to be just ponies and roses moving forward. That's a good reality check. Thank you. Yeah.
Email marketing works really well in the education space, by the way. So
yeah, we've been, I've been scrappily going to university websites, finding their career services people, emailing them, and we've got some good contacts and demos from that. It just takes a lot of work.
You have some questions for me, man. I want to be a resource for you. Answer other questions you have about your business.
Yeah, and this question, I want everybody else listening to this to be able to relate to it, but what are some other mistakes that you see that bootstrappers make? And maybe we've covered a lot of them today, and I'm happy to be the whipping post here for that. But are you seeing other mistakes that bootstrappers are making that we should be aware of?
I would say that one of the biggest ones is staying the marketing and salesperson themselves is a big one. Another big mistake that bootstrappers make is they never transition away from not taking a salary to taking a salary from the business. If you are an entrepreneur that's working hard on your startup and you need to put all of the money back in the business and you can afford to not take anything out, you should do that until the business can afford to pay you a salary. And once the business can afford to pay you a salary, you should never let it not pay you a salary again. Okay. And the reason I say that is because if you have a business that keeps needing you to not take a payment in order for it to survive, you really don't have a business. No one else wants to buy that business either. Okay. So it's really common for a bootstrapper to go, oh, this year I can afford to pay myself 20 grand. The business is still paying, still in its growing stage. And I'm investing in it. The next year it can pay you 60 grand. Okay, I'm going to take one check at 60 and I'm going to let the rest of the business money stay in the business. We're going to grow it. The next year it can only pay you 40. Even if it's growing in revenue, if you feel like you should take less money and you're in your third year of doing it, you need to be asking yourself, is this a business I want to keep doing? And if so, how fast is it going to change away from you only being able to take a small chunk? No one wants to buy a business that's only going to earn them 40 grand a year, unless you're going to charge them $4,000 for it and they can 10x their money, right? But people want to buy businesses that they can see they'll be able to pay themselves a lot out of later, right? And so that can come from top line revenue in a tech startup growing year over year so much that they know the multiple valuations are high enough that they'll get their money out of the next exit, the next liquidity event. A bootstrap business, more often than not, the next buyer that comes along that may want this business is going to say, okay, if I pay $3 million for it and the owner is only taking $100,000 a year, how many years is it going to take? 30 years before I finally recoup my $3 million investment? No, thank you.
Yeah.
You need to get to a place where you can always take a salary out of the business. Don't treat yourself way worse than you would ever treat any of your employees. Okay. You need to treat yourself as good as you're going to treat your employees. And if your business can't afford that, then you need to look really closely at what's going to change in your business so that it can. Because if it can't, then it's not really a business. Businesses pay the owners.
Yeah.
Investors want money out of their business. And so you got to go be working for that always and make sure to switch gears and turn to a salary paying business instead of a dividend only paying business.
I love that, Stu. Thank you. That makes a ton of sense. That really does. I had not thought about that to this point. And I've 100% been like, yeah, I'll just take as little as possible moving forward. I think that's pretty natural for most to think that way.
Yeah.
What is the next best hire for me? So there's myself, then I've got the two technical co-founders. As we think about who we're going to hire next, what's the next position you would suggest, and really any advice in that as you begin to scale?
If you are funded startup, I'm telling you a CMO that can help you generate leads and a sales genius that can help you sell. That's proven they know how to sell for startups, not for big corporate. You need someone who can sell, that's proven they can sell in the startup land. Okay. Hopefully in the education space, but that's less important than that they can actually sell and be good at selling. Okay. If you're bootstrap, then I'm going to tell you an SDR, a sales development rep that can book you meetings with administrations, because it's a lot less expensive and you still need to be the salesperson so long as you're bootstrapped, right? That could very well be the best approach for you. The reason I say that is because, as Josh James, founder of Domo, says, if you're unsure where to focus on your business, focus on sales. It has all the answers. And you can go to joshjames.com. He's got all these cool entrepreneurship quotes. Highly recommend you go check them out. He's the guy that sold Omniture to Adobe and is the founder of domo.com, which is a business intelligence platform. Sales solves everything, man. If you have sales, you now have revenue. If you have revenue, you can invest in building a better product. You can hire more talent to go and grow your business and fix the things that are still broken in your business. And by the way, I was 10 years into StuKent and still finding thing after thing that we had to go work on. Like that, just get used to it. You're going to always be figuring it out like entrepreneurs do. And there's always another struggle and problem along the way. So, but yeah, that'd be my next hire, SDR. You got to go get some sales, get some interest in the product. And that's going to help you gain traction. It makes it easier to hire the next tech talent to help your tech team, the next customer support rep to help your existing customers, all that stuff.
Love it. That's really good. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, Stu, this has been incredible. This has been really incredible. Appreciate all the advice here. And I hope that my story is applicable to a lot of all the rest of your listeners here. But
okay. Another piece of advice I have for you, if you don't mind, if we take a few more minutes here, Mark, is that
absolutely.
Okay? Yeah. Okay. You mentioned having B2B product, B2C product. Focus is so important for your tech team, your small tech team that has limited resources and time and availability to build everything they got to go build. And you as a salesperson have limited availability to spend time talking to people about using your product, right? So go where the money is and focus there. To me right now, B2B is your opportunity. That's where the big money is. That's where you'll get the biggest return on your time spent. So any time spent on B2C helps an individual. That might help you develop your product, but it's also keeping you from focusing on what the universities need. And to me, they have the bigger pockets and you can get more users at once. And I would say focus. When you talk about needing to balance efforts, focus so you don't have to balance anymore. Put all of your energy, time, heart, soul of your business into the one. The other can become a byproduct later.
Yeah, I love that. A temptation that we have is like the B2C, that's easier money, right? We can go out and get a handful of people to pay us, a couple bucks. And we're like, we just want to see some revenue come in. These B2B, contracts take time and the sales cycle is a little bit longer, but this is a good reminder. Yeah. Focus where the money is and not get spread thin.
Earlier, I shared the idea, Mark, by the way, of putting on webinars where you invite other career services professionals from the university to speak. And then in turn, you invite other career services people to come and listen. But if you were to create a podcast where you talked about job placement and career growth and resumes, and you invited career services professionals, by the way, I don't know if they're the key decision maker. They may be a precursor decision maker to get you in with the administration who is the buyer. But that building that community and being the person that's helping them and them seeing that you really are dedicated to that, especially if that's not an area where your other competitors are focusing, there's a lot of power in going and focusing in there.
That's really good. Yeah. And this is interesting. So the career services people are going to be, they're the owners of the project, the product internally. So they're going to be the administrators, but you're right. They don't hold the keys to the vault. It's typically a VP, but the VP will often defer to them and say, hey, do you like this or not? And so it's kind of a dance between the both of them. To who you're selling to, but that's a great idea. Get them talking to each other with me, on a podcast or something. It's great.
By the way, there's a platform I recommend you check out called govspend.com, where the government entities are required to report everywhere they're spending their money. And so if your competitors are listed on universities' lists of expenses, then there's someone that's a potential candidate, but that you're going to have to overcome converting them away from your competitor's product. So something worth checking out. Data is really powerful for you if you use it right. So Mark, this has been so fun for me. I love helping entrepreneurs like this, and I can't wait for more entrepreneurs and founders to come on the show and ask me their questions. Hopefully my answers to you today have been helpful to some of them. And I appreciate you being a little vulnerable and sharing your struggles with us today. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, Stu. Always happy to share my struggles with somebody that's been there and done that. So appreciate it. And this is a great idea. Looking forward to all the other episodes that come out.
Yes, please do share Startups with Stu with your friends, family, and your favorite founder out there so they can check out the show. Take care, you guys.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.